From New York City, it's Ironclad Live. Today's special guest, Caitlin Canning, Garner Bloom, Kara Hendrickson, and from Ironclad, co-founder and CEO, Jason Boehmig. Michaela Waters, the one and only DJ Thad, and now, your host, Chris Young.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Ironclad Live. All right. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with all of you in New York City. We're here at the New York Historical Society. We're in this 110-year-old building, and we're in this incredible theater that's probably over the years seen its fair share of fascinating lectures and presentations. If only walls could talk. All right, so what's today's show all about? It's about the buy side. It's about vendor contracts. It's about procurement. Now, at most companies, sales, they get all the glory. You know that, right? But we know that nothing works without the buy side, and that's why we're going to focus on that today. We've got a great program for you. We're going to kick it off with Jason, who's going to share his vision for digital contracting in this new era of AI. We're going to do a product deep dive, and we're going to review never-seen-before features with live demos on Ironclad. And then we've got 3 leaders who are going to join us on stage, all of whom are leading contract revolutions at their companies. Before we get started, though, I wanted to share a thought. In preparing for today, I took a look at the guest list, and I couldn't help but notice all of the different roles and titles there are in the audience. You've got folks from finance, you've got folks from legal operations, procurement. It kind of begs the question, what do you have in common? This is this diverse group. What are you all doing here at the same time in the same place? But after having probably 1,000 conversations with folks like you over the years, I've come to realize that you actually have a lot in common. See, you've identified that your companies can't continue to do the same things the same way they've been doing them. And it's not just that. It's easy to point out a problem. That's simple. But regardless of your LinkedIn profiles, you're all that rare breed of operator who have the confidence, the courage, and the intestinal fortitude to go in and do something about those problems. You're doers. And that's hard. Day after day, y'all put yourself out there. You're selling yourself to your company, to stakeholders. You're selling your vision. You're risking failure around each corner, it seems. And you do all this when you could just stand idly by and accept the status quo. But no, you voluntarily walk into the eye of the storm to tackle those difficult problems that your companies are facing. Well, I can tell you, while it may feel like you're in the shadows, while it may feel like you're backstage doing all this work, we at Ironclad, we see you, and we're inspired by you. It's motivating to see the impact that each of you are having on your organizations. It motivates us to keep building product, to spend those extra hours to get it right. It inspires us to dream alongside of each of you about what's possible, to flank you while you're executing at your companies. We're right there with you. At Ironclad, we love y'all. And our love for you is in our DNA. But I can tell you one thing. There's not a single person on this planet who I know who cares more about you and the work you're doing than Jason Boehmig, who nearly a decade ago, while walking down the street in San Francisco, shared his vision for Ironclad with me. And I gotta tell you, as I stand here before you today, over the years, it's been absolutely phenomenal to see that vision come to life. Ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome to Ironclad Live, and please put your hands together for our CEO, our co-founder, Jason Boehmig.
Thank you. If y'all are like me, you've been hearing a word float around our industry lately: revolution. Bill Gates famously said just the other month that artificial intelligence is the most revolutionary technology of our time. It's a revolution on a scale of a microprocessor, the personal computer, the internet, and the mobile phone. And we feel this revolution in our daily lives, don't we? How many of y'all have been asked by a manager how AI is going to affect your work? How many of you have used ChatGPT? Almost everyone. That's amazing. It has the fastest adoption rate of any technology in history. And let's be honest, the pace of this revolution, it makes this environment difficult to navigate. It can be scary. It can be uncertain. I think that history has some answers for us during this time. Revolution is a word that comes to us from the late 14th century. It's French, and it refers to the motion of any figure around a center or an axis. The Earth makes a revolution around the sun. A wheel makes a revolution around its center. And if you really want to understand a revolution, you have to first understand its center. In business, the center of every company in every industry is the contract. Companies are simply the sum total of their contracts, whether it's employment contracts, intellectual property contracts, shareholder contracts, supplier contracts, investor contracts, customer contracts. Every company turns on the contract. But if you ask most people in your business today what they think of when they think of a contract, they think of an administrative task. And they're not wrong. Contracts today, they're clunky. They're siloed. If you think about something as simple as an NDA, you have to move words around on a page in Microsoft Word. If you want to collaborate, put it in Google Docs, get some approvals over email. If you want a great red line, maybe use something like Workshare Compare, PDF that, send it around a few more times, load it into software that will put a scribble on it, PDF that again, and then if you're lucky, put it in a folder somewhere where someone else at your company might be able to find it later if they needed to. And the legal ops people in this room have probably just noted down the 3 steps I actually missed in there. But it's a complicated process. Most companies avoid reviewing third-party NDAs at all costs for those reasons, and I don't blame them. Because today, contracts are administrative tasks. But at Ironclad, and I hope in this room, we can also see them as something more. If you're like me, you might actually feel a little uncomfortable with what I said earlier, that companies are simply the sum total of their contracts. And it's true, but it doesn't quite feel right, does it? I love Ironclad, I love my company, I love our company, but if you ask me why, it's not necessarily that we have great contracts, which we do, but it's not necessarily why I love it. Companies are made up of more than just words on a page, they're made up of people. And that's why I love Ironclad. It's our teammates, it's our investors, it's our board, it's our customers, it's our community in this room. And when I look around, I really do see bright, passionate people that are ready to change their industry. That's what it's all about. It's all about people. But the way CLM has been done the past 30 years, it's lost sight of people. It's been focused on growing a list of capabilities that are from an old world. Word plugins, spreadsheets, none of which talk to each other, and none of which put people at the center of the experience. It's left a string of failed deployments. I'm sure there's some war stories in this room. It's technology that has slowed us down more than it's sped us up. In order to build the future of contracts, we have to put people back at the center of them. We have to start seeing contracts as relationship technology. Technology that can help us build the relationships that matter, whether it's the partnership that's going to redefine your industry, the customer that's going to make or break your quarter, or the bet the company acquisition. When you shift your thinking about contracts from administrative tasks and towards people, you can see the future. Because if contracts are about people, then they need to work where people work. They need to work in the browser with powerful word processing that works for business people and legal teams too. They need to work where we do, on our mobile phones, on the go. They need to transition seamlessly from an email exchange into a tagged record in a CLM. When you think about contracts as a people problem, you start to realize how important every click is. I know that people in this room know that the difference between 1 click and 3 clicks can mean the difference between a contract approved this afternoon or next week. If contracts are about people, they need to work how people work. We need a system and a process that lets us think with ideas, not just words. A system that can do something like take a 79-page playbook and turn it into something as simple as sending a text message or answering a few questions on chat. We need systems that augment people, not replace them. And if contracts are really about people, then you all deserve a company that understands why people work. It's our families, it's our loved ones, it's our friends. And at Ironclad, we understand that if we can build software that gets your contracts done faster, you can get home to your kids faster. If you can approve a contract on your mobile phone as opposed to running back to a desktop, you can stay at the soccer game for the big goal. You can spend more time with your friends. You can get out of the back room and into the boardroom. But this isn't just a dream. I met Chris almost a decade ago. It's amazing to be here and say that every example I just gave you about the future of contracts is here in Ironclad today. We have AI that will take a first draft of your contract negotiation and have a draft ready for you in your inbox, marked up against your preferences with custom clauses, ready to go when you wake up and log in with a coffee in your hand. It's called AI Assist, and it helps lawyers negotiate contracts 20 times faster than is possible without the software. That's data from our customers, by the way. It started with third-party NDAs, and it's ready for every contract in every industry. We have APIs that will put people at the center of your digital experiences and give you control. You've probably used some of these APIs as a customer if you've signed up for a membership at Orange Theory, if you've bought furniture on Wayfair, or if you've ordered food on DoorDash. We give our customers control of the digital experience because that's how you put people at the center. And we can get you out of doing paperwork and back to doing legal work. We have AI that will scan your stack of legacy agreements and pull out 194 pieces of structured data. It works so well that one of our customers, in a regulated industry nonetheless, just put 97,000 contracts into it. 97,000 contracts. You know how much time it took him to quality control it? 16 hours. That would have been inconceivable 6 months ago. This is a CLM that's powerful enough to work for any contract type across any industry from start to finish. We no longer need to distinguish between buy-side CLM or sell-side CLM or systems for procurement or systems for sales contracts. In the people-centric world, they're the same thing. And we can deliver that on a platform that supports the end-to-end journey from idea to execution. It's a system designed for people. Because at the end of the day, what we in this room are creating, why I love being here, are human experiences, trust, relationships, and they're what matters. So I think that central point around which the contract revolution will center, the AI revolution will center, is the human relationships that are made possible by contracts. That's the way it always has been. That's the way it will be. From the first contracts in ancient Sumeria, it's so exciting to be here, entering into a new era of digital contracts with you all. I'm so proud to be here with you and excited for the next stage of the journey. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jason. You have time to chat?
Yeah, let's chat.
Okay, great. Take a seat.
All right.
Thank you, Jason. All right. So we've talked a lot about AI, right? That's a big deal. It's what's been circulating around Silicon Valley, around the world, beyond Silicon Valley. The question I have for you is this. Is this just another sort of Silicon Valley trend, or is this something real? How real is this?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's real. Like I get asked this all the time as a founder of how real is this stage of the revolution. There's something different. There's something different in the last 6 months. But you can see it in the product of like, it took us 8 years to get to about a dozen fields that we felt like lawyers and legal teams and business people could rely on. We got 194 now. And I mean, if you would have asked me 6 months ago when we would have 194, I would have said like, if we're lucky and dedicating a ton of resources to it in a few years.
And that's 194 properties clauses that can be detected, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you think this is here to stay then?
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. I mean, we got it live to over 50% of our customer base. And I started the company to try to get to 10x more effective lawyers. We're at 20x right now.
That's incredible. All right, so as you know, as our GC, I'm privy to certain confidential information. And so I want to kind of throw this out there, probably waiving some kind of privilege here, but I know that you and Kai originally registered Ironclad as ironclad.ai. So this is not something new to Ironclad, is it?
It's not something new. So yeah, Ironclad.ai was our first domain name. And once we got deeper into the contract problem, what we realized is there's not a platform on which you can deliver it on, so that, if you have to move words around on a page and then download it and then upload it into something else, the seamless experience is missing. And when AI gets there, we want the seamless experience to be ready to deliver it into. And so that's really where we focused most of our efforts over the past 8 years. We never stopped working on it. And so we were able to take advantage of some of the technology.
We've built the platform, and AI is enhancing what we do.
Enhancing it.
So as I mentioned to all you today, we're focused on the buy side. But what do you think about these buy side contracts, and how important are they in this overarching sort of vision of digital contracting?
So I've always had a passion for buy-side contracts, which is, again, why I love being in this room, because this is a group of people who probably share that passion. There's not a lot of us. But
they're all here.
Yeah. So when we started the company, we had early investors who were like, so sales contracts, that's what we're doing, right? We're doing sales contracts because that's where the money is and that's where the revenue is. And Kai and I've always had this vision of a contract to contract,
right?
Like employment contract, sales contract, procurement contract, you name it. It's a contract.
Right.
And fundamentally, a contracting platform should be able to support all types of contracts. So it's something we've always believed in. It's amazing to see the value that delivers to folks to have those on the same platform.
All right, well, JB, we like to call Jason JB at Ironclad. JB, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the couch today. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Jason Boehmig. And coming up next, we're going to do our first live demo of Ironclad digital contracting. Stay tuned.
If you suffer from contract blockages, irritated stakeholders, or upset executives, every day can feel like the longest day of your life. That's why there's Ironclad CLM. Ironclad CLM isn't a stopgap. It's an end-to-end business contracting solution that unblocks contracts and provides data and insights that you've never had before. In clinical trials, Ironclad CLM has been shown to increase contracting speed by up to 97%, while leading to better relationships with your peers and higher rates of getting promoted. If your company doesn't use contracts, then Ironclad CLM may not be right for you. Side effects include more time to improve your ping pong game, really nailing down that karaoke song you've been working on, and heightened feelings of peace and relaxation. Ironclad CLM is associated with an increased risk of actually liking your job. Consult your counsel immediately if you close more deals in quarter, identify redundant vendor contracts, or avoid that big privacy lawsuit. You both deserve a big high five. Don't worry with Ironclad CLM.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine, an enterprise account executive here at Ironclad.
And I'm James Bailey, integrations product lead at Ironclad.
And we both have the privilege of interacting with procurement professionals all around the world every day, learning and speaking about their contracting process. In fact, I see some of my favorite procurement customers in the audience here today because I forced them to come here today. Our first demo here today is all about speed. Procurement never wants to be the team that slows down the contracting process, but it's not easy. We have bottlenecks. We've got lengthy reviews and negotiations. We've got a lack of visibility. Ironclad is helping our customers with a set of modern technologies that James is going to show you actually right now. He's going to show you three things. First is collaboration and approvals. With Ironclad's clause-level approvals, procurement teams can automate the approval process, as well as loop in legal if, when, and where a review and negotiation needs to take place. We talk about AI all the time, but how does AI specifically support this audience, which is procurement? Playbooks uses AI-powered clause detection that automatically analyzes the contracts for you, flags areas of risk, and even provides suggestions on how to negotiate based on legal approved guidelines. And entities. How many of us have seen MSAs, SOWs, order forms spread across multiple systems, stuck in email, buried in filing cabinets, impossible to find, and more importantly, impossible to track? That's the problem we're solving with entities. First-class counterparty management with rich extraction of all your vendor contract metadata in clean, elegant reports, including parent-child hierarchy and contract families. Now, James, I think it's actually time to see it live and see how fast this really is.
All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining. As Christine mentioned, this is the first time we're actually doing the demo live at IC Live, so we're very excited to go through this with you, if a little nervous. So I'm going to dive straight in. We are here in the Ironclad dashboard, and I'm going to play the role right now of, say, your business user, or maybe it's a buyer in your organization who needs to quickly go and self-serve and understand what contracts they have available to them, get that vendor contract they've been just given over the line, and try and move it through fast. So if I go in here and start workflow, you can see what I've got available to me. We've got the NDAs, which almost everyone in the company has access to. And then I've got a couple of procurement-specific contracts here, one of them which is this vendor agreement we're going to go through today. So if I jump into that, the first thing I'm going to be able to do is go in and upload the contract. And then I'm going to select the vendor name. And this is where you're going to see the sort of first of the new features we're previewing a little bit today, which is those entities that Christine mentioned. So entities is making the idea of a counterparty, in this case a vendor, a first-class object in Ironclad. So you're going to be able to track it. I'm going to be able to start typing here, see all the people I've already done business with, creating a level of consistency so you don't get duplicate data in your data sets, and also then allowing you to report. So let's say today, though, I'm doing some business with a new entity here. And I'll capitalize there. We're dealing with an external entity. You can also represent internal entities. So for example, if you've got subsidiaries and things like that. Governing law, going to do California, and then I'm going to put an address in here. Let's try and do one where they actually give us a zip code. That'd be nice. There we go. And that's all automatically filled in. But also, as I mentioned, because it's gone into that separate form, because it's become that first-class object in our system, you also now have the ability to go and see that on the rest of your contracts. So I've pre-filled a lot of this data. I didn't want to do a demo of you watching me fill in a form. Great. So I'm going to go submit, moment of truth to see if I remember to fill out everything. Looks like I did. And we'll dive into the Ironclad workflow. So on the workflow pages, we're really going to start the process of negotiation. And back to that point of speed, we now have AI playbooks that can allow you to see the clauses and make sure that they are in compliance with your playbook and with your policies. This is really transformational. I'm sure you see this with your customers as well, because you will work on third-party paper, right? CLM for years has had templates, and you can get great policies around, hey, if I change this field, it has this effect on my approvals and different things. But with AI, we finally have the ability to bring that to the third-party paper and therefore make it much more powerful for vendor contracts. So I can click in here, press edit, and see what's wrong with this contract. So you can see there's been 3 clauses that are flagged here. We've got a limitation of liability, a price increases, and a renewals clause. And with AI Assist, I can press a single button here and get suggestions about changes to the contract that would bring it in line with our policies. So for example, I've got a non-standing clause around limitation of liability. It looks, if I scan it, like it's a 3x sort of multiple on revenue as the limitation of liability. Let's say we usually like 4, but I know this is our vendor of choice. So I'll reach out to Chris in a second and ask him if we can get an exception here. I feel good with the other 2 changes that I can just own them myself as a procurement person. We're going to remove the price increases. We don't like a with inflation price increase baked in. We can negotiate that at the renewal. And also, we're going to fix a non-standing clause around renewals. It's got an auto-renew in there. We want to keep that under control so we can better manage our spend over time. So I'm going to go in here and accept those 2. And then hit done. And what you'll see here is those are automatically negotiated and redlined here right in the document. There we go.
That's awesome. And quick.
And quick. A few clicks. I don't need to be good at writing legal language, which I'm not, so that's a relief. And then we're going to go into the limitation of liability. And this is the one I thought Chris might be able to help me out with. And so I'm going to say, in general, I'm happy with this, but I don't have the power as a procurement member to just do this myself. So I'm going to ask Chris Young and ask him to approve because it's our vendor of choice. Maybe it's not a super competitive market, so we're willing to give a little bit. Going to save that. Chris Young has been asked to do that. Save as new. Come on.
James,
yeah.
That request, I appreciate it's going to take 2 business days to turn it around.
Yeah.
Your SLAs for this request, Chris, is 5 seconds, please. Yes. Changing the rules.
Yeah. So while Chris is working on that, just sandbag for the next 2 days. So I hope you all brought your plenty of food and water. So you can see here that we've got a clause approval now that has Chris assigned to it. And basically what that means is I can not only bring in my legal counterparts in a very simple way, a very targeted way for the bits I really need their help, but also when he does give this approval, which he just did, you can see it click to a little green approval. Thank you, Chris. So now I'm pretty happy with that. We've got terms, everything's in place. I think we can send this back to the counterparty. And I can, from right here inside, email this document back to my counterparty right here.
So now this is sending it to the counterparty, which you will be going into the email, correct?
Yes, so I'm going to play the counterparty for a second here. And you can see there it is.
That's quick.
And so I can go straight in, see the contract, download it, get it up on my screen, and review it. And what's really nice about this, and it's one of the principles we take throughout Ironclad, I think, as Jason mentioned, the vision here has always been to build a platform where there's one place to work and allow you to move quickly, get all this work done. But we also know you work with counterparties who want to work the way they want to work. And so one of our principles has always been that this will always work with the tools of choice. So you can see here, this has gone straight into Word as a Word red line, with no need for the counterparty to have any knowledge that you're using these Ironclad tools. And that becomes quite important to our legal customers because they don't want to impose things on their counterparty because of the CLM they chose. So I'm going to make a non-material change here. Just say it's the 24th, and then go save as, and then so response 3. Then I'm going to go back here, going to reply all. That's good. Me, so a slightly cryptic response, which is not that helpful. Response 3, and send that back. And now I'm going to switch back to being our procurement manager, who's going in here and trying to get this contract through as quickly as possible. And I'm waiting for this response from my counterparty. And what's nice is this is going to come straight back to me here in Ironclad. I don't have to be going around multiple systems. You can see there it is right there. I can then add this to the workflow really quickly. And because I got a slightly cryptic email from the counterparty, I don't know what look good really means. I'm going to jump in, do a quick compare to what I showed. See, and I won't scan through the whole document, but see that there's only this one material change. I'm happy with that. I can then just go into the document, accept all changes, save as a new version.
And then it's ready to go.
Yeah, we have a final version now. I'll just mark that up as a final version, and we can move it for signature. We won't show you the signature process today. That's not what we're demoing today, but we're now all ready to go. And that's really the exciting thing about Ironclad for the buy side. We now have this ability to move incredibly fast, to empower our procurement teams, to empower our business users to negotiate where they can, where they need to, while keeping that proactive management of your policies on third-party paper, all while remaining fast and compliant.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, James.
Excellent work. Thank you so much, James and Christine. Folks, welcome to the stage, our first guest on our panel, Caitlin Canning. She's the head of legal of Ocrolus. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So let's start off with what we have in common. We're both recovering litigators.
We sure are.
Yes, yes. Congratulations to you. How's it going?
And to you as well.
Thank
It's
you.
fantastic.
Right on. It's going well for me too. All right. So what made you see the light after that law firm life so that you would go in-house?
Oh, yeah. So after law school, I went to a firm because everyone says you got to go to a law firm. You can't just go straight in-house, which is what I wanted to do. So I was at a law firm for a couple of years, and then COVID hit. So during COVID, the firm wasn't prepared for any work from home atmosphere. So we were just working constantly. You know, at a law firm, you're working 24/7 as it is.
True.
So when COVID hit, all the partners knew you have nothing else to do, just work away. So
They
it
like
was,
that.
Yeah, it was great for the firm, not so great for my mental health. It's funny, there was a period of time during COVID, must have been 4 or 5 days in a row, where I was just working constantly. I had 2 roommates at the time, and they saw me as they woke up in the morning, working before them, saw me working late into the night. And after day 5, they look into my room, there was like piles of takeout, and it was just not proud, but, had to be done because I was working, gotta go. And they had what I lovingly call my roommate intervention, sat me down and said, hey, you wanna come out of your room and not be working 24/7? That was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not happy doing this life. Like, there's so much more that I want to do, that I could do. I've always been really passionate about, building companies and working internally. So right then and there, I decided, let's look for an in-house job. Let's get out of here. And that's what I did.
Thank you, roommates. What was your DoorDash of choice? What was your...
There was this hole-in-the-wall Chinese place. Oh, man.
What was it called?
Oh, number 1 Chinese.
That's what it was called?
That's literally what it was called.
Did it have the hash number 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I was like, how good could it be?
It's number 1.
It literally is number 1. I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, oh my gosh, sesame chicken. Oh, man, it's so good.
Good deal. So was the transition tough?
Oh, man. It's one of those things, like, law school teaches you a lot of knowledge, but not really like how to run a legal department.
Sure.
So when I joined my company, I was brought on board as supposed to be the number 2 lawyer. A week after I started, our GC at the time left. So then I became the only lawyer.
Promotion.
Yeah, which was kind of terrifying, really sink or swim moment. Thankfully, I swam and still swimming, treading water. But man, the transition, trying to figure out like, where are all of our contracts? Like, what's going on here? What's the current process? It was like the Wild West of contracts when I joined.
Tell us more about that, like the state of contracts when you showed up.
Oh man, it's like, it was a beautiful dumpster fire. So when I first joined, they were literally drafting contracts from scratch each and every time. So all of our customer agreements, order forms, MSAs, NDAs, everything from scratch. Every time. It was chaos. And on the vendor side, we get third-party paper, but no one really knows how to track it. You send red lines over, it kind of just goes into the email ether, never to be seen again. It was chaotic, to say the least.
And so how did you round up all those contracts in all the different corners of the organization and get them in one place?
Yeah, it was extremely tedious, going through old email accounts, Google Drive, personal drives, shared drives, an email chain that was 5 years old. It took a long, long time. But once we finally had everything together, I discovered Ironclad and the repository. Oh my gosh, it's been life-changing just to have all of our contracts in one place.
And so it sounds like it's going all right, having Ironclad after the fact. What's the after state now? How do things look now?
Oh man, it's night and day. Like, for a team of 2 of us, we are super efficient. So we gather all of our approvals in one place, especially on the vendor side, keeping track of who is submitting it, like which department, gathering approvals from finance. It's all set in one place and I never have to worry about it.
And it sounds like things aren't slowing down over there at your company. Folks on the product team mentioned to me that your contract volume is doubled over the past year. Is that right?
Yes, I actually learned that fact earlier today also. I'm shocked. I was like, doubled? Are you sure? Because it doesn't really feel like
more than doubled.
Doubled,
it's amazing.
But that just is such a good testament to how Ironclad has helped us. Like, we've been a team of 2 for a year now, and the fact that we've doubled since January alone, it hasn't really impacted us, at least that I've seen.
You're not ordering takeout from...
Oh, yeah. No sesame chicken orders so far.
Got it. And so, if it's not obvious, one of our themes for today is AI. What are your thoughts about AI? How are you leveraging it at Ocrolus?
Like many lawyers, I was very skeptical of any AI product. What is this?
Right.
It's gonna take our jobs. Like, it can't possibly know anything that I know. It didn't go to law school. What the heck is this machine? But I have a funny story though. So I was working on a contract, non-standard bespoke clause, had to draft something that I had never drafted before. Mm-hmm. Usually I would have gone through past contracts, looked at a similar clause, take an hour, 2 hours to try and figure it out. So I decided, maybe I'll give this AI tool a try. So put in my, my specific clause and, asked the prompt, and what it spit out wasn't terrible. And I was like, okay, all right. Tweaked it a little bit with my own human in the loop, and I sent it back to the counterparty.
What did they think?
Well, I didn't tell them that it was
No, of course
AI
you didn't.
first.
No,
I was
no.
like, no, I can't let my
That's your
secret out
assistant.
yet.
You don't need.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't know what your assistant's helping you.
Sent it back. It was kind of like a test, how is this gonna go? And they brought comments back. Great, wonderful clause, no changes. From then on, I was like, okay, AI, we might be friends. I like this.
So a lot of folks in the audience, they're kind of early on their journey. And so I think a good question for you is, if you think back to when you first got started, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh man, that's a great question. I'm a first-time GC, first-time head of legal. One of the most critical things is getting in touch with a community, whether that's other lawyers or other people in the industry. That's something I wish I did very early on, earlier in my career, because it's invaluable. I love learning from other people, especially non-legal folks. Don't get me wrong, I love talking to other lawyers. It's great.
Who doesn't?
Exactly. But I learned so much just chatting with other legal operations folks. They've got great ideas on how to set things up and scale and build. So just keep your network open and keep it flowing.
That's great. That's great advice. Community is key.
It is.
Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, give a round of applause for Caitlin.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get right back and do our next deep dive into digital contracting. Stay tuned.
As a learned member of the legal profession, I apply the utmost diligence and circumspection in the crafting of contracts. Regrettably, my colleagues do not comprehend the necessity for such meticulousness, leading to their frequent vexation. However, a remarkable occurrence has transpired. I have discovered a technological marvel, Ironclad, which enables me to pen, revise, and ratify impeccable contracts with rapidity. I declare, 'tis a revolution. Your revolution begins at ironcladapp.com.
We are shifting gears to a topic that I know not only top of mind for procurement teams, but just organizations as a whole, which is controlling and managing spend. Procurement teams that I speak to are consistently searching for solutions and ways to be more proactive when it comes to their purchasing, renewing, and more. In fact, I spoke to a procurement team last week that missed an auto renewal and accidentally purchased a $700,000 contract that they had no intention of renewing. They obviously were not using Ironclad. Today, James is going to show you how we help our customers with a few features. Ironclad Smart Import AI auto-detects up to 194 contract properties. So whatever is important to procurement, indemnification, termination length, renewal date. These agreements will automatically not only become searchable, but more importantly, reportable, putting you in that more proactive approach as opposed to reactive on your contracts. Shifting to our obligation management solution, Ironclad helps procurement teams stay on top of their contractual obligations, understanding their current commitments, and manage and flagging obligations by setting up auto renewals, agreement reminders, ensuring that all their proper stakeholders are being held accountable with Ironclad obligation management. And what do we do with all this enriched data? We report on it with Ironclad Insights. Ironclad Insights allows procurement users to gain full visibility into their vendors, helping them analyze their contracting process and quickly seeing important information such as 30, 60, 90-day renewals or auto renewals month by month. So James, enough of me talking. Let's see how this actually works.
Awesome. Great. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to sort of orientate ourselves in the sort of second half of where your Ironclad contracts live. So with that context, let's jump back to our repository and start a smart import. So this is how you're going to get any old contracts you have back into your system. So we've all heard the stories of the large-scale sort of migrations. There's also quite a lot of situations we hear about where you're starting to implement more process, or you've had a few people do their own contracting, maybe in a department, which has been a little slower to adopt. And you get a little cache of contracts that you need to upload that have been sitting on someone's laptop. And you can use our smart import feature to deal with these use cases. If I go in and select my files, select a few files that I've been sent, maybe by a head of a business function that's just coming online in CLM, and that they had sitting on their laptop. I'm going to open them up and click upload. And that's going to start importing. As you can see, they're all PDFs. It's actually pretty cool. Some of the PDFs we do manage to read from are pretty scribbly and badly formatted. And our OCR manages to pull and extract that data and get them into a format we use.
What I tell my customers, if I can read it, Ironclad can read it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It really does do well.
It isn't saying much. No, I'm kidding.
While we're waiting for that to load as the sort of AI runs there, I also wanted to show you what that looks like once it's all formatted. And so we have this section in your repository, which is the sort of My Views section. And that's where you can create custom views for what you need or your team needs to do their active job. I like to think of the views here as the sort of workspaces. This is where you're going to proactively manage lists of contracts that have similar characteristics and need similar forms of management to be done on them. In this case, I'm thinking about procurement, so I'm very interested in how are these renewing, what's the life cycle of this contract. And this is where you'll start to see the second new feature we're going to talk about today, which is this new status field. This is going to look at data in your contract, like does it auto-renew, what's the renewal period, what's the expiration date, and all these different details, and actually tell you what the active life cycle of this contract is going to be. You can see here I can quickly scan for the auto-renewals that are coming up, including a couple here which are getting a little uncomfortably close, so I should probably take a little look at those. One which is a little further out, a couple of contracts that are just active and I can probably leave alone for now, a couple of expiring ones which I might want to proactively renew, and then a few evergreen, recently executed, and elder contracts in this corpus. I can also add things here like payment terms and other key details that are important to me and my daily job, and then act on them. What's super cool is I can then even go a level further. So we've got some contracts here that have 90-day renewal opt-outs, which is obviously not great. Clearly, we haven't been negotiating hard enough. Maybe we didn't set up our playbooks quite well enough. And we have a few of these sort of high-risk opt-out periods where it's going to be very easy to miss them. I can then take this view and sort of make the management here even more proactive. So I can set up email reminders where I can invite anyone from the team. Maybe Christine has signed a ton of bad contracts and I want her to help me. I can easily do that from in here, add anyone I want, add the procurement team, or any person I need to work with me on this. I can then go and set how often I want to be reminded. So that could be, as you can see, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. But I kind of like this one-time feature because it's got this nice function which you can do before. And I can say, given these are all contracts with 90 days auto-renewals, I probably want to know, let's say 110 days before the expiration date. And when I get that report, I probably want to understand what the expiration date is, what the period is, and also, let's say, the contract value, so I can know how importantly to treat this. I can then create that contract, and me and anyone else who's working on with me will be automatically notified when we need to proactively manage those contracts. So you can start to see the combination of the ability to get data into the system and the ability to report on it and create these proactive views really gives you the ability to be more proactive about obligations and renewals. So with that, let's go and check on how our import is going. And you can see here, we've got a number of fields coming in, including a range of counterparty names, the counterparty address, signer names, signer title, contract value, agreement dates, and a range of others. If we click into one of them here to get a little bit more detail, we can start to see sort of how rich some of this data can be, and so how hard it would be if you had to go and do this all manually yourself. So I have an agreement here that has this new lifecycle section, which comes with the new status feature. And I can see the expiration date has been extracted. I can actually see this started back in 2019, and I've already auto-renewed it a few times. And so maybe given that, I want to be proactive about the next renewal, check we're happy with all the terms, with the agreement, make sure nothing material has changed in either of the businesses. And so I will take special care of the renewal opt-out period that's been tracked here. Maybe I want to add that to some sort of report or some other thing like that. And I can absolutely do that. So you can see that the data being pulled in is pretty rich here, and we're going to get pretty rich automatic additions to those views and that proactive management of our contracts. Finally, one other little cool feature is it will automatically show some default charts about what you've just imported. So say you're uploading a few more than 5 and you need a bit more of a summary, you can instantly see what you've got in here. The only downside here is for procurement people, these are probably not your most interesting clauses. Like our legal team's going to be very interested in the fact that we're doing quite a lot of business where the venue is state of Texas, but maybe not the most important thing for the procurement team. And that's where comes in our custom insights. So this is where you can build, based again on this data, custom reports about what's going on in your contracts holistically. So if the sort of views and the repository is an active working set of contracts that we need tasks around, we need reminders around, this is more sort of my holistic look at how I'm performing, what the trends are in my contracting data. So I can see here we've been doing lots of sales contracts recently. Maybe we're doing sales consulting or we brought a couple of new tools. I can see month by month how many contracts of each type are going to be expiring. So I can maybe help that with my staffing projections and my planning around that. I can also see that, back in January, we accepted a lot of auto renewals. So maybe we needed to do some training around that.
For the sales team in February.
Yeah, it really went ham. And then we've got that trending down. So that's a good trend for our business. And then finally, we can do some, total contract value is in all of these contracts. So we can start doing some reporting for you on total spend. So we've got this average spend by vendor agreement type. You can see we're doing most of our software agreements. We can also create fields to allow you to track if you manage to negotiate savings during the contract negotiation. So you can see here on average, we're saving about $10,000 on those software contracts. And the combination there of the high volume alongside the decent job of creating savings has allowed to cumulatively save $220,000 for our business. So if you are tracking these things in workflows, if you're using our AE guy, you can start to get some really powerful, holistic data about what's going on in your contract. And obviously, all of that data is also synced up with the first demo. If you're building these things in your normal workflows, they're all going to come into the same repository, into the same reports, giving you a really holistic view of what's going in your contracts and allowing you both to manage that proactively, as we showed in that first views screen, and also to get those holistic view of what's happening and what you're contractually obliged to on the buy side.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, James.
Give it up for James and Christine. All right, we've got our next guest. Welcome to the stage, Garner Bloom. Garner, welcome.
Thanks so much.
Welcome. So you're head of procurement at Lattice. We're big fans of your product. We're customers. And we're going to talk about procurement in a moment. But before we get there, you've kind of had a windy path to your current role. You were once a sous chef, is that right? What was that life like? What was that all about? What was your day-to-day?
Some days the hours were the same, but end of month, end of quarter, that's how it goes. But I will say that the air conditioning is a little bit better in the office than standing in front of a 1,200 degree broiler.
Sure. I'm guessing, and hopefully it's not much of a stretch, that some of the skills that you developed as a sous chef have actually transferred over to your current job.
Yeah, in hindsight, I feel like that's probably where I first got my initial exposure to procurement, working with suppliers, helping to manage and negotiate inventory, contracts, payment terms. That makes a huge difference, especially when it's on such a small margin business, like running a restaurant or a catering operation. And so being able to translate that skill set and the hospitality and everything else to tech, I think set me up for success in that regard.
So I think this might be the first time I've seen anything like this before. Procurement at Lattice sits with legal. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I report directly to our GC and work alongside our talented contracts team and compliance team. But we don't think of it as two separate teams. We are one team. But I think the big thing is that procurement is often seen as a financial function, and it's all about savings. By not being part of the finance org or not strictly talking about price, I think we're able to get great deals, but also it's been able to take the idea of legal from a cost center to a savings center.
Legal as a savings center. It has a ring to it. When you got to Lattice, what can you describe sort of the state of your vendor agreements?
Distributed. Lattice is a fast-growing company, and we have an incredible amount of talent. We have, procurement is definitely a team sport. And the first job that I had when I got there was to learn about the team, understand, which suppliers they loved, which suppliers they were wavering on, understand the state of the contracts, and that meant that I had to go and work with a lot of different stakeholders in a lot of different functional areas of the business. Help them comb their inbox, talk to finance, talk to accounting, try and gather as much information as we could. And now that we've been there for a year, working with a dedicated Ironclad workflows, what's really amazing is that with all the other industry turnover, there's new contacts at suppliers that I'm meeting for the first time as we're talking about a renewal. A lot of the times they might not know how to go outside of their own document execution process. So every buy contract that we execute runs through Ironclad. We'll maintain version control and signature control on our end. And so a new CSM might not have ever encountered that before. It's amazing for me to be able to actually enable them to do their job. And, when it's their company that is trying to get a deal done with us, I can say, hey, we sent it to signatures or deal desk at yourcompaniesdomain.com last year. Can we just run that same playbook? They're like, oh yeah, sure. I didn't know we could do that. That's great. Let's look forward to working with you. And so that's a very powerful thing to have, not just the details of the contract itself, but the execution side and how to get it done.
And so, and when you walked in, Lattice already was an Ironclad customer.
They were, but they were really focused on putting a strong deal desk team and contract team in place for the sell side. But we've now been able to expand the contract team, and shortly we'll be expanding the procurement team as well. And Ironclad is going to be a key part of that. So
you've got all your contracts, your vendor contracts in one place. They're in order. Are you feeling good about that?
Definitely sleeping better this year.
Good. Excellent. We've got one last question for you. And I think it's one that you all would want to pose if you were maybe up here in this seat. And it's this. We're asking a sous chef, by the way. If you can eat at just one restaurant in New York, which one would it be?
That's like asking me what my favorite song is, all genres. I mean, New York has so many incredible restaurants, but one that's been on my list for a long time. It's a place where I think hospitality is equal to the food. I'd probably want to go and grab a seat at 11 Madison Park. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, you heard it first from Garner, sous chef, here on stage. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, Garner. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back in a moment.
Are you tired of spending hours tracking down your vendor contracts? Had enough of digging through email, cloud storage, and even physical filing cabinets just to stay compliant? Losing thousands or even millions of dollars when mysterious agreements renew automatically? There must be a better way. Introducing Ironclad Repository. Ironclad Repository uses AI and powerful integrations to collect and organize all of your vendor contracts all in one place. It takes seconds, not days, so you can spend time doing more important things and earn the respect of your peers. Plus, sign up now and we'll also include Ironclad Repository for sales contracts, NDAs, beta agreements, employment agreements, and more. For your free demo, sign up at ironcladapp.com today.
All right, they let us back up here. One more session of my bad jokes and James's very good demos. In this session, we're going to take it a step further and focus on what James's actual real role here is in Ironclad, which is our integration ecosystem. With Ironclad's Coupa integration, users can initiate an Ironclad contract workflow directly in Coupa, syncing data, approvals, and contracts across the two systems, meeting users where they actually already are. James, let's pop into it, don't you think?
Yeah, let's get started. Cool. So we're starting in a slightly odd place for a Ironclad demo, which is in a Coupa form, but we understand that procure-to-pay processes sometimes already exist, that you'll be initiating from other systems sometimes. And so our Coupa integration does allow business users to initiate a requisition from within Coupa and then automatically include contracting as part of that. So we're going to just quickly start from this page here, which is a Coupa requisition field, which is basically the page a business user or a buyer who's launching on behalf of a business user would go to start their contracting and purchasing approval. So I'm just going to add in some details here. Pretty vague for now for the sake of this demo. They can then go down further and start to add some key details about what they're buying and other things like that. And I think this is a nice little example of why Ironclad working well with other systems is really valuable for the buy side. Because right here in Coupa, we can immediately see how we're doing against budget for this particular type of spend. And so nothing ever gets to legal's plate unless it's already had some level of vetting. We already know it's compliant, and we already know it's going to work within the budgets we set out at the beginning of the year. So you can see here we're starting to buy Dynamics. We've got a really, really good price. And then also buying some implementation services here. And if we scroll down a little more, you'll start to see how this integration works and how Ironclad's going to become a part of it. Again, for those of you not familiar, what a requisition basically is in Coupa is an approval flow for spend. And so we hook into those approvals here. And you can see we do that in two places. One is to launch a contract, to say, hey, this purchase needs a contract. Can we be sure that it has started, that contracting process has started before we proceed any further? And the final second one here is saying, hey, we've got all those procurement approvals. This is the last approval in the chain. We can now sign the contract knowing procurement's happy. And then that will also do some cool stuff to make sure that the signature doesn't go out before procurement is approved, because you don't want to be signing up for spend that procurement isn't happy with. So let me quickly go in and submit this for approval. What's happening here is that we are doing what we call a dynamic launch process. So we're going in and we're seeing, does this requisition have all the fields that you need for your contracting process? If the answer is yes, we'll auto-launch, nothing else needed from any of your end users. If the answer is no, what we'll do is automatically send a message back, both via email and here in the Coupa interface, to say, hey, contracting and procurement data isn't always exactly the same. We need a few more details filled in before we can proceed. So let me just refresh that quickly. There we go. Then we'll go in, launch pending, and we have the option to click here to complete. So if I click here, you'll see we're taken into that launch form, and all that data we pre-filled in the requisition is already there for your business user. So you avoid that sort of duplicate data entry, and also any errors that usually come with that from your business users. So I can click in here and upload a file. We can also automatically transfer the file as if your business user added that during the requisition process. We can add things like term type, the expiry date, and other more legal specific data. And I'm going to add the counterparty signing name. As in the previous demo, we've filled in a lot of the other data automatically, but as you can see, a lot of this other data has come from that requisition I just filled in. So we've got the Coupa requisition number right here. We've got the business purpose I wrote out. We've got the total costs. Here I can indicate as we go through the negotiation process, if I negotiate any savings, I'll just quickly indicate the department and some termination for cause options. And then you can also see we've pulled in some pretty complex data around the exact line items and obligations that are going to be associated with this contract. So I'm going to go then and submit it here. And what you'll see is a slightly different looking Ironclad workflow in two key ways. The first one of that is it will be linked to the requisition. So you can see here we have a link back out to the requisition in Coupa, very simply there. And also it's got one of our new external approvals. So I can quickly see as a legal team member whether I've got that approval in Coupa that I need to proceed for signature. What this does is it allows the two teams to sort of work in parallel. I hear a lot about, when we work on this, heard a lot about contracts and contracting teams and procurement teams working together, slacking each other back and forward, email being back and forward, being like, can I send this document for signature? How's the PO coming? And really spending a lot of time and energy getting that done. This can take that away, with both teams able to work in confidence, knowing the other team is going through that process and knowing that they'll be notified when it's complete. So let's go back here and go through the rest of the approval flow. So I'm going to go through the rest of the approval flow here. So we're going to first do on behalf of this procurement approval. And then here we'll get to the last approval in the Coupa approval chain. And once I've done this one, what's going to happen is we're going to notify Ironclad that all the procurement approvals have been given and release this contract for signature. So if I hit approve here, and then just to show you that this link actually works, go back to Ironclad via the Ironclad workflow link we sent back to Coupa, you can start to see that this procurement approval is going to automatically tick over in a second. And as I mentioned, that's a really powerful thing. Like, we have a lot of back and forward, a lot of times when teams are unsure whether they've got approval, whether they can send this thing for signature.
This seems like much more efficient collaboration between procurement
much
and
more
legal.
efficient. Yeah, and there it just came in, so you can see we've now approved by Cooper. If you imagine a legal team's working away, it's probably a slightly more complex often than this. There won't just be a single approval. We've been going through the process. We've now got that Cooper approval in automatically. If I go to approve.
Who's Jim? What happened to Chris Young?
We got rid of him.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. He was a bit cavalier about the limitation of liability.
Yeah,
we didn't want that. So now we're in the signature stage and this contract's ready for signature. I'm gonna upload this signed packet. And this just is showing you a wet signature flow just because it's a bit quicker in a demo, but we can also obviously integrate with all of your e-signature tools and things like that. Indicate that both the signers have signed.
And it's ready to go.
Ready to go. I'm just gonna approve it for archive so it goes in the rest of our data with repository.
You just made a salesperson somewhere very happy.
Very, very happy. They got their deal done super quick. And you can now see what's really nice is that this is connected back to Cooper. So we've got that PO has been issued. Because the contract was signed, we went back into Cooper and auto-approved this execute vendor contract element, which automatically released the PO. So once again, we had all those controls for the legal team. They could work knowing nothing would go for signature until they got that procurement approval in. Similarly, procurement could work knowing that this wouldn't be released and the PO wouldn't be issued and they wouldn't be authorizing spend for the purchasing department or accounts payable without that contract being signed and it being backed by a document. So you get those two really nice two-way controls.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James.
Wow. Give it up for James and Christine. Next up, we have our final guest. Welcome to the stage, Kara Hendrickson, Director of Category Management for Ferguson. Great to see you. Oh, yes. You come with gifts.
I come bearing gifts.
Well, I'm not going to wait.
Yeah, no, don't. Open it up. It's like Christmas morning.
Aha. Yeah. What time is it?
I know.
Is it?
We're almost
not
there.
there yet.
We are
Not
so
there yet.
close. So have you ever had Ironclad bourbon?
Not yet. Pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 5.
Yeah.
As soon as we are done here.
But what's
Yes.
the story?
So,
I didn't know we were
yeah.
do we have a trademark on this?
No,
Okay.
but Ironclad is actually, so I'm from Hampton Roads, Virginia. About 15 minutes up the road, we have the location of where the British surrendered to the colonists. So United States was, wow, I was really expecting a lot more. Yeah, okay, wow. Whew, tough crowd today, tough crowd. But that's all right. So 15 minutes to the south is actually kind of where the James River enters the Chesapeake Bay, and it's the location of a Civil War battle. The Battle of the Ironclads. The Confederate soldiers had trouble fighting against the Union soldiers because they had the U.S. Navy. So they took their wooden ships and slapped metal all over them, and they became the Ironclads. Union caught on, and they had the battle, and ta-da, bourbon.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's history.
So enjoy. Yeah, you know you're going to get a history lesson.
Right? Okay, so let's dig in a bit.
Yeah.
You've been at Ferguson for 10 years.
Yeah,
You're a team of 11.
Yes.
You've experienced a ton of success.
Yes.
So I'm guessing you got your MBA from Harvard or Wharton?
Not quite Ivy League.
Okay.
So I do have a master's from Penn State University, but not in procurement or contracts or legal. But I am working on my PhD and just figure it out.
There you go. That's a good
So
one.
if anybody knows about that one, it has a specialty in blood, sweat, tears.
There you
and
go. Grit.
Just, and all the things. So, yeah.
So the recipe for
great.
success is not pedigree. It's that grit.
not.
It's that drive.
No, I'm a little bit of like the mutt you find at the SPCA. Yeah.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. So.
But we get it done. We get it done.
And that's
We're
all that
scrappy.
counts, right? We're
Yes.
looking at the results. What are the results? And so when it comes to contracts, when at Ferguson did you realize you had a problem on your hands?
So I entered the Ferguson world, and when I sat down, I had my first project given to me. I was an assistant at the time, and saw that it was a spreadsheet, and they said, yeah, splice this up to 16 people, and then tell them to email it all back to you. And I was like, what? I was like, do you know about shared files? So I introduced them to SharePoint, and our lives became amazing. And then as I started to expand my role, I was put into more of an operational position, took over our contracts programming for our national accounts that we do on the buy side, and just kind of found the same things. Like we were just taking these really complex, major programs and agreements and had a little bit of a manualness to them.
Sure.
So we kind of dug in. We grabbed our shovels. I talk to my team all the time about, I relay what we do as more of like spring cleaning. When you like see your closet, and you're like, hey, I just want that to look different. I can't really get to my shoes anymore. So you just kind of pull everything out, and we just get in sort of a rinse repeat cycle of just finding new closets to clean. And contracts was one of those. And so we put a vision together and found the right people to help us build it back.
Share with us some of the things that you saw in that contract closet. What was going on in
Yeah,
there?
sure. So we had a kind of a custom application that was about 12 years old. We had to manually take things out, put them into DocuSign, and then bring them back in and like re-upload them. So we definitely had some job security there for a little bit. And then, we just needed a better way to tie it all together. And we have suppliers that we do different types of things with, as many of you probably experience in different businesses. You're not always only doing one thing or have one kind of transaction. So we needed a way to bring it all together and provide some visibility to our legal team. And then our legal team, we said, hey, why don't you help us create this better way of doing contracts? And so it just opened the door for us to dig in and talk about what we really wanted it to look like and what guardrails we wanted to put up. And we brought Ironclad along for the ride.
I love it.
And it was fantastic.
Sounds like you're in the business of tearing things down and rebuilding them so they're better.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I don't always tear it down,
Okay,
just to be clear.
I was trying to be a little dramatic, keep the audience engaged. And so we know that change is hard, even at a 10-person company, let alone a multi-billion-dollar company. Can you share maybe some secrets or some tips on how you can actually affect that change?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about secrets. Again, I'm still working on my just get it done, sort of figure it out. But I would say, really everything's about just kind of boiling it down to the smallest parts, right? You can't eat the whole elephant, drink the whole ocean, whatever the analogy is. But it's really finding what those iterative changes are that you can make. We kind of look for low-hanging fruit. We look for things that we know that we can kind of make headway in or create best practice out of, and then we really kind of use that as foundation for the next thing. So we are through 3 deployments of groups that are now using Ironclad. We know it's working. We have a line out the door of people that are knocking and want to have a workflow in Ironclad. So it's very exciting. But luckily I have a legal business partner that's like, we have a checklist of things that you need to have ready before we get started. So
And that's what I wanted to ask about next. There's a lot of folks from legal operations in the audience, and maybe you can share with us how someone like you, Director of Category Management, works with folks like us.
Sure. So the people like us, here's who I am. When I go to a hotel, when I go into the bathroom, and the toilet paper is folded in a triangle at the end, if you can appreciate that, you are my people.
Okay.
And so it's really about finding those people. And the reason why I tell that story is those are details that you don't know that you want it until it's there. And you're like, wow, I really like that. It's just better. So I like people who just
attention to detail.
Absolutely. It just makes it better for everybody else.
Well, that's who we are. That's why people love working with legal.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And so tell me about your Ironclad story. How was it when you implemented, and what's the change that you've seen since doing so?
Sure, yeah. We were in the midst of looking for a new CLM platform. I mentioned we were looking to move out of a custom applications, really. So our senior vice president and our director of strategic sourcing kind of came to us after a conference that you all put on 2021-ish, and said, hey, there's this Ironclad out there. Why don't you add them to your list to vet and look at? And we said, okay. And when we opened it up, and it was really easy to navigate, and we mentioned about large companies and making change, and we knew we wanted something nimble. I didn't want to have to ask our IT department for this dedicated large team to try to help us figure out everything. I said, what can we get that we can do ourselves? Like, what can we build ourselves? And so Ironclad was the answer to that. And so we were able to take the expertise from our legal business partner and my subject matter expert and put them together with the fantastic implementation team at Ironclad. And we had summer camp of code building workflows, and it was fantastic.
It sounds like you had a good
Great sense then.
sales rep sold Ironclad to you.
She's okay.
She's all right?
She's all right.
Who was that?
Christine.
Ah, all right. Folks, give it up for Cara. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna wrap with a game called Whose Clause Is It Anyway? Until then, we'll see you in a moment.
Michaela, the contract is ready.
Can I take a look?
You don't have to read it. You would understand. You didn't go to law
I'll
school.
give it a quick proofread. I'm just going to put it in Ironclad, and then we can get this done really quickly.
What kind of ink will they use?
So there's no ink. It's just a click. Do you want me to show you? So just click. How'd that feel?
I didn't like it. Is this sorcery?
So it's not sorcery.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michaela Waters from the product marketing team at Ironclad, and apparently I'm also everywhere. So we spent the afternoon learning about the latest in buy-side contracting from Ironclad. We've been listening, we've been learning, but now we want to do something a little different, which is you all participating. So we're going to play a little game called Whose Clause Is It Anyway? Here's how it's going to work. So we're going to show you 5 never-before-seen contract terms, and you have to guess, make up your mind, if the clause was written by AI or by a member of Ironclad's very own legal team. Chris, that's your team. Let's see how they do. It may sound easy, but these contract terms are a little different, a little unexpected. So this is a true test, not only of how creative Ironclad's legal team is, but also of how adaptable ChatGPT is. So to play, we're gonna have everyone in the audience stand up and guess in your mind, don't say it out loud, if the clause is written by AI or by Ironclad's legal team. If you guess correctly, stay standing. If you guess wrong, relax, take a seat. We'll repeat this 5 times with 5 different clauses, and those left standing at the end will be our winners. Is everyone ready? Is everyone standing? Okay, let's play Whose Clause Is It Anyway? Okay, our first prompt. A limitation of liability clause where liability is limited to a single Bitcoin. Maybe a good deal, maybe a bad deal. We'll see what happens with Bitcoin. But take a look at this clause. I'll give you a few seconds here to read through the language and then guess in your mind. Again, don't say it out loud. Was this AI generated or written by a lawyer? Feeling ready? Everyone have in your mind AI or a lawyer? AI generated. So if you got it wrong, so sorry, you get to relax again, take a seat. I love that some people are sitting. This is a good sign of honesty, because you could lie. But this was written by AI, by ChatGPT, and I love that it also quoted on a recognized exchange. Well done, ChatGPT. Our next clause, clause number 2, confidentiality clauses tend to be pretty standard, but what if? What if there's an exception for someone who really wants to know? You know, like your roommate or someone over a coffee chat who's like, wait, no, but really, what happened? So let's take a look at the clause. To a third party with an exceptional desire to learn. So again, a few seconds on the clock, read through, make up in your mind, AI generated or written by a lawyer. And for the legal folks in the room, I would love to know for you what the elements are for proving exceptional desire. I think that would be an interesting legal prompt. Okay, get your answers ready because this one is written by a member of Ironclad's legal team. And we will work to get this language put into all of our Ironclad contracts ASAP. That one took a lot of us down, very interesting. And up next we have, what if? What if? Believe with me here, folks. We wrote a termination clause where the contract terminated upon 1 year or 1,000 hot dogs. So get ready and get guessing. Was this written by AI or written by a real lawyer? Regardless of who wrote it, the verifiably consumed and the standard size hot dogs cracks me up. There will be no pigs in a blanket here. There will be no hot dogs eaten in a dark room. Okay, have the answer ready in your mind because this was written by a lawyer. Thank you, Ironclad's legal team, for making that clause so iron tight. Okay, we have very few people standing. Moving on to number 4, and I'm getting nervous if everyone's standing. I need you all to get these right so that I can have some winners at the end, please. No pressure. So here we asked ChatGPT and the Ironclad legal team to show us an indemnification clause for causing bad vibes, which I think we should honestly all be behind. So read through and again, make up your mind, AI or a lawyer. But regardless, I think that we've created a new standard here in contract language because, especially as Gen Z and everyone joins the workforce, bad vibes will no longer be tolerated, and we need to make sure that that is represented in our contracts. So make sure you have an answer in your head, because this was written by AI. And not only did AI get the term right, but it also understands bad vibes, there in quotes, which is amazing. So again, if you guessed this correctly, stay standing as we move on to our final clause. And I think we have 4 people left. Okay, hold and steady. The best for last, termination by meme featuring Alex Sue. So this is it, folks, the final clause. Give it a good read and ask yourself, was this written by AI or a member of Ironclad's legal team? And then also ask yourself, did Alex Sue bribe us to put this on the screen? You've all now become AI clause detection experts, so my 4 folks left standing, let's test your knowledge. This was written by AI. So if you are still standing, it looks like I have 2 of you. Congrats, you are winners of Whose Clause Is It Anyway? We're actually going to ask you to come up to the stage and get a prize. So, and let's keep the applause going too. Woo!
Give it up. Come on over, guys. All right, well, here we are. We're at the end of our show. Thank you again for joining us. We have another Ironclad Live coming up in Texas, in the great state of Texas. So please sure to join us in person or through video if you can. We had a great deal of fun. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's give it up. All right.